All right, welcome back, everybody. Doing a little bit different video for this. I think it might be a little bit of a series, and it was inspired by one of our viewers. You probably heard me talk about him before, Taz Adams 6. It was after the last race, and he reached out and commented on the video. I think it was YouTube, might have been Instagram, but he asked me a good question: how to get into racing, and that really kind of got me thinking that would make a really good video, maybe even a series. I might do this in two or three. It depends on how long it goes. I've been trying to get this going. I created a PowerPoint. I hate PowerPoints for YouTube and this type of tutorial. It works pretty good. And I've never done anything like this before with sharing my screen and whatnot. And so I've taken about the last month to create the PowerPoint. And the last 2 days, I've taken, I don't know how many takes trying to get it right. So I think I got it figured out. We'll see how well it works. I've been experimenting with microphones and everything, and nothing just seems to work very well. So I'm going to keep it simple. But basically, I'm going to take the approach as no experience whatsoever. Really got, when he asked me, it kind of put me back. And I had to reminisce, like when I first got into desert racing, I didn't know who to call. I didn't know the racing organizations, where to get the information, nothing, and these races are sometimes they're so remote, they're not easy to find unless you know where to look, right? So I'm just going to start there and keep it very, very simple. When we get into class discussion, like what class to race for a budget racer, I'm going to focus mostly on either UTVs, but mostly both a Volkswagen. And the reason being is now that Julie's racing a Bug, her 516 Cashmere, I've really been inspired by them and how rough and rugged and simple and inexpensive they are for racing. And I understand now. Before I didn't. I used to go to races and look at them and go, why in the hell would anybody want to race that thing? But now I get it. There's a lot of these cars around and they're really inexpensive. And for the budget racer starting out, I think it's a awesome avenue to go. And the nostalgia of it is awesome. They're a very special group of people. So let me start here. Where do we start? Let's find your starting line to your racing career, right? So I want to apologize for my hair. My hair and makeup person is off today, so this is what you get. All right. So the number one thing is budget, right? It's the necessary evil of this or any sport. Let's say you're on a softball team or something, you're going to have to buy a gear. You're going to have to buy a baseball bat and catching gear and catcher's mitt, right? So racing is no different. It is very expensive, and you got to go into it realizing that it's going to be a constant expenditure. And depending on how much you want to race, it just adds to the expense. And you got to account for a lot of things that we'll go over in this, but it is expensive. You're not going to make money at it. The professional guys out there that you see on TV, NASCAR and NHRA and F1 and all those fellas, they're less than 1% of the world's racers out there. 99.9% of us are just budget racers, weekend warriors, if you will. So you're going to have to figure out a budget. It's going to take some free cash to make it happen. And remember, this is just a hobby, right? The competitiveness in us seems to really come out if you get into racing and you love it. They call it like a venom, right? A poison. And once you get bit, you want to constantly progress, and that means more money. So make sure that you have this and it doesn't affect your livelihood, doesn't affect your daily life and time with your family and stuff, because you will have to budget for a lot of time as well. So but with that being said, you can get into it without breaking the bank. There are ways to do it very budget wise, and we'll go over some of that stuff. And with that being said too, let's say during this discussion you realize, or during your investigation while trying to get into it, you realize, wow, I just can't do this. I can't afford it. I don't have the time or whatever. A lot of racers out there, such as myself, are constantly recruiting for help, for our pit crews, co-drivers, so on and so forth. It requires a lot of people. You'll learn during our discussion here that you can't do this type of racing by yourself. You have to have help. You have to have a friend. These races span hundreds of miles, and you need services and support along the way. So my point is, if you can't get into your own car and race, you might be able to find a team out there that mm, would need help, and you can jump on board and help them out. You can either be in their pit crew as a fueler or a tire changer or a jackman, or maybe even get in the co-pilot seat and be a navigator for them, right? So that could be a good segue to getting into your own car and learning the sport. Okay. So you got to realize you won't make any money at it. Sponsors aren't going to be knocking on your door. We'll go over sponsors and how to get them and stuff, but they won't be throwing money at you. You get the sponsors, and you're basically advertising. And that's what they're paying you for, is a mobile billboard. I'm in a situation to where I'm already retired from my main career that I worked through life with, right, and made my livelihood. And now I've started a business, an entrepreneurish kind of thing, to where my truck is my advertisement billboard. And we get it out there to promote my company. We build off-road racing components and chassis and race trucks. So for me to get out there and race those components is advertisement for us, right? So without getting into the details of business, but that's how you do it if you're a business owner. So that could be something that you have, like my buddy and sister team, our affiliated teams. Send It Baja, Brandon, he races a 7200 truck, and he also owns Kroger's Dirt Works in Oregon and Tree Service, and his truck is his advertisement. He's right here, actually, in this upper right corner. That's his truck right there, right? So you've seen it. So he advertises, and I advertise on mine. So that might be an avenue that you can go to. So you want to ask yourself, should I really do this, right? You might really want to. Do you even know how to race? You're going to have to learn, how to drive the car. And it's not like driving on the highway or through town. There's a lot of different dynamics of operating these vehicles at high speeds in the desert, as well on the asphalt. What I'm going to talk about in this whole series overlaps with all disciplines of racing. It's just not off-road, but I'm going to focus on off-road because that's what we do, right? But so you're going to have to know how to race. You got to learn how to race. To do that, you can find instructor schools. You can find somebody that knows how to race, that wants to jump in your car with you and show you. We're more than happy to do that as well. So you just got to ask yourself, should I even do this, right? And budget is a big part of that question. Time, you're going to have to budget a lot of time. You guys see on my videos, I'm in my shop more than I'm in the drive seat of the race truck. We're prepping it to go to races, and we're fixing and repairing and inspecting after the races. So be prepared to designate a lot of time to this. This really, number 5 here, should really be up towards the top. But friends, do you have some buddies or family that want to jump in on this? Maybe go in partnerships on a car. They can also help you on the weekends, rent it. If you work Monday through Friday and Saturday, Sundays are your days to work on the race car, friends are awesome. And that will help you budget your time as well. It's really important when I say time management to make sure you spend time with your family. And it's going to be good for yourself to take a break away from this for a minute. And we'll get into that. But if you have family that wants to do this with you, it kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. You can spend time with them and have fun working on a hobby that you share together. Part of your budget's got to be your entry fees. We'll get into it later, but entry fees to these races are very expensive. Way more expensive than any kind of racing I've done before. And we'll get into that. So just be prepared. Entry fees are expensive. And that's primarily where my sponsorship money goes. It'll go into the fuel a little bit and tires if we need them, but mostly it's entry fees to the race. You want to find the right class. We'll go over that in the rule book. You're going to hear me say rule book a lot in these videos. You want to find the right class that fits your budget. And that's why I think class 11 and UTV are the way to go. We'll discuss that. Once you get the race car, you got to build it, right? You got to outfit it to what the rule book says. We'll talk more about that when we get into the rule book. But the rule book isn't just codes of conduct type thing. The rule book is the specifications of your race car per the class and you as a person. You're outfitting for yourself and your co-driver. And then you got a budget for the post-race repair. There's sometimes when we get back from a race, I don't have anything to fix on the truck, so to speak, but I want to inspect it to make sure stuff's not wore out and needs replaced. These are the racing organizations. This is where I think you need to start. If you ask yourself, man, I want to race, I want to check it out, you need to decide on what entity you want to race under, and there are multiple here. So if you look at the bottom here, you see Score and Nora, and those are the big dogs. Score does the Baja 1000, the Baja 500. Nora does the Mexican 1000 and many other races, but they're primarily down in Baja California, down in Mexico. So I'm not going to talk a lot about them, but it's all the same. All the rule books and how they operate and the logistics of the races are pretty much all the same. I'm going to focus on these ones up here. I'm going to start with Vora and Snore and Legacy, these three right here. Vora does a lot of northern Nevada stuff up near Reno, Sparks, Virginia City. You've seen us race them. Legacy does the entire state, and they work a lot with Vora. Legacy and Vora have a mutual championship that they put on. They started a couple years ago. And they co-host a few races for a points series. And they run very, very well-ran races. And their entry fees are very affordable compared to the others. Snore's another one. They do the Rage at the River, which is their big race. It's a gnarly race. It's a highly publicized race. They're very nostalgic. A lot of Class 11 and VW guys and buggy guys like to race Snore. They do stuff in southern Nevada and northern Arizona, and a little bit on the border of Southern California. But these three right here are pretty inexpensive entry fees. And when I say pretty inexpensive, I think Snore's entry fee for Julie and her 516 car was like around $700. Vora's going to be around the same. You'll get up into the 700s to maybe 1500s. Okay. Legacy's a little bit more. They'll range from 1,000 to 2,500 ish. Unlimited off-road. This is the high end of entry fees. Unlimited off-road and Best in the Desert. Unlimited off-road are the Martellis out of Vegas. They own the Mint 400, the California 300. I think they do the Parker 250 now. I'm not sure, but they have their own little racing series. The Mint 400 on the high end entry fees. When I raced the Mint 400 in my Sportsman Unlimited truck, which isn't pro. When I say sportsman classes, those are amateur classes. You don't race for points or money. You just race for a trophy and bragging rights. Pro classes are on the other end of that spectrum. They race for points, they race for money, and bragging rights. Everybody races for bragging rights. But so I was racing Sportsman Unlimited at the Mint 400, and my entry fee was $5,500 for that. And Best in the Desert's entry fees are going to be somewhere comparable, maybe about $1,000 cheaper. They're very expensive to enter, all of them. You know, even $700 is a lot of money for Snore and Vora. But you got to understand the logistics of putting on these races is insane, right? They span hundreds of miles over lots of property jurisdictions. They might have private property owners they need to pay for. They might have to repair stuff that maybe a truck takes out a fence or something on accident. They've got BLM fees and Bureau of Reclamation fees and maybe some tribal land fees and permitting. And plus they have to have equipment to rent to rehabilitate the trails when we're done with them, because we go out and we clean up all the trash, and they take graders and they clean off all these public trails to make them better than when we first came, right? So that all costs money, and the racers absorb all that. It's just the cost for us to be able to do this, right? So I would recommend, and I'm going to focus on Legacy and Vora for your first races. I would focus on Snore, but their races, like the Rage of the River, is really, really rough, and it's competitive and it's fast paced. It's a 2-day race, and you do so many laps in a timed period. It's rough. For a first-time racer, you don't want to go to Rage at the River and learn in that type of environment. You want to be low-key and as chill as possible so you can soak it up and learn it. And Legacy and Bora are the way to do that. They run things very, very nice. I put Jeep Speed on here because Jeep Speed's pretty darn cool. Jeep Speed's their own little entity, okay? But they don't put on their own races. They hide under hide's the wrong word. They participate under the umbrella of these other agencies like Legacy, Vora, Best in the Desert. So Jeep Speeders will go to, let's say there's 20 of them, they'll go to a Legacy race and go, hey, we want to race on your track, but they race for their own point system and their own trophies and so forth. And they have their own rule book and everything. And part of that is they have to be a Chrysler product. As you see here, it's a Jeep Cherokee. LAPD Motorsports guys that we just pitted with, one of our affiliate teams, Brett Meister and Matt Lovell, they run Jeep Speed sometimes, and he has a Dodge grill on it. You can kind of race anything you want as long as it has a Chrysler-looking grill on the front of their Jeep. So that might be an avenue for you to do. Go find a mid-'80s Jeep Cherokee with a nice 6-cylinder in it and outfit it a little bit and just go rip Jeep Speed. Their entry fees are very, very inexpensive. I don't know exactly, but I know they're very in the low hundreds of dollars, and a good group of guys. Mike, the owner, is an awesome dude. Okay, so those are the agencies and entities. I'll probably be bouncing back and forth to some of these slides. Okay, so you got your budget figured out, right? You've talked it over with your partner, and maybe you gathered some friends. You decided you want to do this. And let's say you decided that you're going to race Vora and Legacy stuff, okay? And now, when you pick your agency, this is what you're going to have to do. You got to buy a membership with them first. The memberships for all of these are about $100 or less a year. I haven't seen any that are over $100. And like I said before, you're going to want to pick an agency that the entry fees are within your budget. And we'll get to the sponsors. It says sponsors here will help, but we'll dabble in that a little bit. But right now, let's just focus on this is coming right out of your pocket. You'll worry about sponsors in a little bit. Make sure they hold the races is that it's close to your area, because travel costs for you and your team, that gets expensive. Everybody on my team volunteers, their friends and family. I'm truly blessed to have them, and they put out a lot of their own money and their own time and their own vacations, from work and stuff to come to these races. I do my best to split the difference and distance, and that's another reason why Vora and Legacy work out well for us, is because I'm in Southern Nevada and Vegas, and most of my team is all in Oregon. So by us splitting it and racing primarily in the Reno area really helps out with them. And like I said, they're really fun races. The rule book. We're going to get to the rule book. I don't know how in depth on this one. I'm going to go into it. I'll show you how to find the rule book, how to navigate through it, because it's a little bit tricky learning how to navigate it. But we're going to spend some time going through the rule book, because it needs to be in your back pocket the entire time you're building your car. So you build it right and you pass tech inspection. And this right here, I strongly recommend this. Go to a race. If you want to join up with Bora or Legacy, um, then you get their membership. You go online and you look at their schedule of events for that year, and go find a race and go watch it. Um, the way the races work is usually for racers, they open up Wednesday or Thursday for us to move in and get stuff set up and kind of get situated. Friday is registration. You got to go officially register everybody and get your wristbands and pit passes and all that for your team. And they verify that you're there. You'll get your trackers and everything. And then Friday's usually also check inspection and contingency. We'll go over all that. And then Saturday's race day. So, and Sunday's usually like a trophy day. So there's a 4 or 5 day commitment there. That dabbles into the end of a work week. Okay, so the rule book. We're gonna go into the rule book. Let me see if I can do this without messing stuff up here. I'm gonna go to Google. I'm gonna type in Legacy Racing. Okay. There it is. There it is. Right here is what their website looks like. This is their 2024 schedule. This is what we raced last year. This is all the races they do. And you can see Cedar City. That one was 2B miles. Virginia City to Tonopah. They usually release this information about a month. They'll open up the info button about a month before the race. And then about a week before the race is when they allow you to get the GPX file, which is the race course. And the reason they hang on to it is because they don't want people, a lot of these races, you can't go out and pre-run. BLM doesn't permit it, doesn't allow it. If you're crossing over or near a lot of private property or industrialized area, they don't want just a bunch of people out there ripping and creating a bunch of dust and messing the course up for race day. So a lot of these in the United States don't allow any type of pre-running. There are some though. Vegas to Reno allows you to pre-run some sections, but not all. So anyway, this is Legacy's website. And then you go to rules and classes. And here's what it's just a general overview of the real quick point out rules, like how your numbering system is supposed to look, what classes have certain numbers. Your engine sealers, we'll get into that in a minute, and then your points table if you're running for points. So we're going to go right here to the 2024 rule book, and this is what a rule book looks like. Let me get all the way up to the top here, and they're all kind of the same. Score, Wara, they all adopt kind of the same format, the same layout, right? And how it works here, usually it starts out, these are all the classes. This is the pro car and truck classes right here with their numbering. So if I'm going to run, like I run unlimited truck, my number needs to be between 1 and 99. I'm 26. I say that, but it depends on the entity you're racing with, So like when I raced the Mint 400, I was racing Sportsman Unlimited, which was an 8100 class. When I take that same truck and race to Bora and Legacy, my Sportsman Unlimited truck now became a 1300 class. So I recommend starting out just sticking with one racing agency. That way you don't have to continuously change all your numbers. Because if you get t-shirts and apparel made, and then you with your number on it, and then you go to a different agent, you just spent a lot of money on t-shirts and apparel and hats and stuff with the wrong number. So I recommend just sticking with one. So these are the different pro classes. And then here's your sportsman amateur classes with their numbers. And there's Jeep Speed right there, you can see. And then UTV. Can't forget about the two-wheeled guys, motorcycle and quads. Those guys are beasts. Unless you're already a avid motorcycle racer, go for desert racing, but I don't recommend it being your first thing. I don't know, man. I'm not a motorcycle guy, and you got big race trucks breathing down your back, and you're all by yourself out there. So motorcycle guys and quad guys are a different breed, different breed. They're like bull riders. There's a little disclaimer and then the table of contents. And if you look in the table of contents here, these are all the classes of where to find your class. Okay. I'm going to go real quick here. Rule usage, the terminology they use. Okay. And I think it's under terminology. Vehicle terminology, event terminology. Here we go, right here, the abbreviations. So if you look right here, general rules, this is the general rules section of the rulebook. And if you look at the title of it right here, it says this section is GR1, right? And if you look up here in the abbreviations, GR means general rules. When you're building your truck and stuff, you're going to be paying a lot of attention to GCR right here, which is competition regulations, right? General competition regulations. And you're going to be paying attention to the GT, the GPT, and the GDR. Those are the driver rider rules, the pit rules, the tech rules. So my point is, when you're scrolling through this rule book, bouncing back and forth from the rules and your class requirements, you're going to be looking for those abbreviations there. Okay, so let me do an example. My camera keeps wanting to go to sleep, so I'm touching it to keep it going here. Let's do an example. Let's go back up to the table of contents. We want to raise class 11 bug, right, which is stock Volkswagen, and that is on page 91. So let's go to 91. There we go, class 11, stock production Volkswagen sedan. And here's your codes. Those are acronyms for these specific safety equipment requirements, right? Here's your suspension components rules, your front suspension, rear suspension. For stock 11 bug, there's very little modifications allowed. You can beef things up and make them stronger is pretty much all you can do. But let me show you how to navigate it, like right here. Fuel system. The type of fuel you can run is under GCR 21. Your fuel tank is GCR 22. Safety fuel cells required. So let's go up to GCR 22. That's going to be all the way up at the front of the book. So now we're going to bounce back to the beginning of the rule book. And we're going to look for GCR 22. So I'm in the GRs right now. I need to find GC. That's general competition. So let's find GCR. We're in the GPTs. Here we go. Competition regulations, GCRs. See that right there? We're in the competition regulations. So we're looking for fuel cells, which is 22. Or 16, 19, 21 is the fuel system, and then 22 fuel tanks. And this right here spells out what your fuel tank requirements are, right? They usually have to be a bladder, foam-filled fuel cell. They have to have a bladder in them. And the foam keeps them from sloshing, and the bladder keeps it from rupturing. So these are the requirements for your fuel cell. So that's how you navigate the book, right? So you go to your class, you find the section, and then you bounce back to the beginning of the book to where the rule is spelled out. They do that so they don't have to rewrite this entire rule for every single class, right? So that's how that works. So we're going to revisit the rule book a little bit later, but that's what one looks like. It's all spelled out. So if we go back to page 91 for class 11, it's everything right here is spelled out. When you build your car, everything is explained on what is allowed. Fuel tank, roll cage, engine, transmission, all that. In this class, it's almost like a spec class. It's a driver's class. So all the cars are very, very much the same. So let me explain that a little bit. Like, there's unlimited and then there's spec. And Spec classes mean there's limitations. In class 11, I think they're limited. Well, I'll use 516 bug for an example because I know it better. 516 is a class 5 Volkswagen bug, which is allowed to have slight suspension modifications. But the 16 means in the 516 that it's limited to 1600cc motor. So everybody has to run no bigger than 1600 cc's. So a lot of sportsman classes and spec classes have those restrictions to make it more competitive at a driver level. All the vehicles, they try to keep it an even plane, right? Like a 6100 spec truck that we race, we're all limited on engine displacement. Everything else is unlimited. It's a full-on unlimited trophy truck, but our power plant is limited to horsepower and displacement. So you'll hear me say sportsman spec classes, restricted classes, and class 11 bug is a restricted class. And I recommend getting into a restricted class when you're first starting out. So, okay, that's the rule book. We'll dive more into the rule book, but I just wanted to touch base on it, show you how to find it and how to navigate it a little bit. But we'll go more into that. Okay, so here we are. You've figured out a budget. You've got some buddies. You picked an organization that you're going to race with, right? Now you got to pick a class. And like you said, like I just showed you in the rule book, here's kind of the different classes. Up here in the upper left is class 11 bug. It's stock bug. This is 516. You can see the difference. There's a little bit of modifications done. Run a little bit bigger tire. You can open the fenders up a little bit. You can run bypass shocks. You can't run coilovers. But these two here are very inexpensive to race, and you can find Volkswagen Beetles everywhere. You know, on Facebook, they're everywhere, from free to a couple $1,000. UTV classes. UTV is super popular, and they've really exploded because you can basically go and buy one off the showroom floor, put another couple thousand into it for safety features and whatnot, radios and communications, and go race it and be competitive because they're super dependable and they're super rugged. The problem is your initial cost on one of these things is going to be in the upwards of $20,000 to $40,000, $50,000. And that might be a hard initial hit, right? Whereas you can get into a stock bug for $500 and then build it yourself, or find one that's partially built. We'll get into that as well. Buggy classes, like class 1 is basically class 1 is an unlimited trophy truck of buggies. These guys run competitive with the big dogs down here. But there's all different classes. There's Volkswagen classes, class 1600s, which is V6s, and all kinds of buggies. You get into the Volkswagen buggies, they could be comparable to a bug, but they're more purpose-built chassis, and when something breaks on it, there's only one of them, and you're going to have to fabricate that up, and that cuts into your budgeted time and maybe skills. Can you even fabricate, Whereas a bug, if you munch up a fender, you can go find a different fender, right? If you crunch up the door, you can go get a different door or beat that door out. But with these, they require fiberglass bodies or sheet metal bodies that are form-fitted and tubing. So just another option. There's truck classes from amateur to pro, all different trucks, from stock truck, Ford Rangers, the 7200s and 1450s and all those. So study the classes, just go in and learn them. Trophy Light, I put Trophy Light in here. They're kind of like Jeep Speed. They're pretty cool. They're their own entity. They operate just like Jeep Speed, whereas they jump on board with other big racing agencies to get their racers in. But they're a very purpose-built truck. They're like a miniature trophy truck. I think they have 4 cylinders in them. Super fun. But the initial cost, again, you're going to have to buy a Trophy Light truck. And it's a full tube chassis, very purpose-built race car. Very inexpensive, relatively speaking, but still way more expensive than, say, a stock bug or something like that. 6100 spec truck is basically a trophy truck, just limited on horsepower. It has a spec motor. Our motors are sealed, which means the engine builder builds it to the specs of the rules for that class, which is all the same as everybody. And then they seal it, and I'm not allowed to work on that motor. If I ever have anything wrong with it, I have to give it back to the engine sealer, and only he can break the seals to inspect it or repair it or rebuild it. Um, so it's very competitive, and there's no unlimitedness allowed in the motor. You can't pump it up and kind of not really cheat, but you know, get all the horsepower you can out of it. It's limited, and they're very, very reliable motors, very reliable. And then we got the big guys over here, Trophy Truck, unlimited everything. Like they're up to 1,500 horsepower now, so and climbing. And then the motorcycle guys, again, man, Iron Men right here. Those guys are put together with some kind of super glue. I tell you what, tough, tough, tough. Okay, so you've picked your class. Let's go with class 11, right? You got your budget, you got your buddies, you got the time, you've paid your memberships to your agencies, your entities, you got the rulebook printed out, and you picked one of these classes. So let's say we pick class 11. Now you got to find the build, right? And that's what we're going to get to next. Finding the build. Um, you know, this is where it can get complicated because you kind of have to have a crystal ball a little bit. You want to be able to stay within your budget. You have to do your homework, read the rule book, do some research. I started shopping before I really had the build. That way, it kind of gives you an idea of what money you have left over to buy the actual vehicle, right? We know we're going to run a class 11. That's what we decided on. So the question is, I'm going to bounce back and forth between a couple of frames here, is do you want a pre-built one, a partially pre-built one? Do you want to do the full build, right? Do you want to go out and find a Volkswagen Beetle that is bone stock that you have to strip apart? Or do you want one that's partially the way there to save you a little bit of fab time? Or a complete ready to roll turnkey, right? Just all depends on your budget. Be patient when you're searching for the build. Don't get swallowed up into buying somebody else's garbage, and we'll get to that. Know your limitations as far as fabrication, if you're a super good welder and fabricator and got a good mechanical aptitude, then you might kill it. Or maybe somebody on your team, friends or something, might be good at it. So use those tools and those talents from other people. Your space, your workspace, you got to take that into consideration. Do you have a little single car garage or do you have a full on shop, right? So that's all part of the consideration of what your capabilities are going to be. Watch lots of YouTube, right? Specifically our channel. Ask us questions, reach out, ask other racer questions, get lots of feedback. Some good places to find builds and race cars and stuff are like racedesert.com, and that's spelled wrong. That's supposed to be a Z, just like it is over here. Sorry about that. Racedesert.com, for Facebook Marketplace. Race Desert, I like. Money Pit Classifieds is pretty good. Their inventory is usually kind of low. I just think it comes down to a popularity thing. Maybe not many people know about Money Pit, but I like Race Desert. Race Desert's nothing but racers. They're all straight up. You tell them if you're buying something from them, you tell them what your plan is doing. You probably just made a contact that can help you and kind of help mentor you along the way. And there's not a lot of scammers that have discovered it yet, I guess, and infiltrated it like Facebook. 99% of people that contact you when you're trying to sell something on Facebook, they're just fake scammers or robots or whatever. So I like Race Desert, but there's a lot of them out there, ask around, just ask around, talk to other racers driving around your neighborhood. You see a bug, somebody's yard. That's another way to, let's say you've got people in your area that race you don't even know about. You might find them. And then again, like I said earlier, don't buy someone else's junk. Don't get something that will take a lot of your time going backwards because you had to remove a bunch of stuff to bring it up to rules, right? If you're buying something, let's say you found a car and it's all caged out and it has a race history, um, but you look in the person you're buying it from and they've got another vehicle, another rig sitting right there that's their current vehicle. I'd ask them why they're getting rid of this one, right? They either ran it to death and it's garbage now, or it doesn't meet rule book specifications anymore, because the rule books do change. They do amend them and improve them as racers get faster. So make sure it's not something that you're going to have to just start all over anyway, and then you just waste a bunch of time stripping everything out, right? So just be aware of that. Oops, I'm not in the slideshow. Let me get to the slideshow here. How do I do this? From transfer. There we go. Okay, so here's some examples, right? Upper left here. This one's almost turnkey. It just needs a motor, right? And VW motors are really inexpensive. You can buy them fully built, ready to race, that are competitive for right around $5,000 or less. You might even know an engine builder that can do it. If you're super mechanically savvy, you might be able to rebuild the motor by yourself on your own. But this one right here, everything's done. It's ready to go. Clearly a pretty professional looking race team that's got their shit together. So the car was probably built right. So when you go and search one of these and you look at it, take the rule book with you and know those key factors, key points that an inspector is going to look at, your cage and your gussets and your belts and stuff like that. Now, the belts and nets and stuff, I recommend just buying them new anyway, because they have a shelf life, right? They're usually about 2 years. You get a car, it's got 2 months left on your belts. Just buy new ones. That way they're dated. But here's something, upfront cost is going to be a little more, but put value to the time, your time and effort, and your team's time and effort to get it to this level, right? To this level of completion. And it might be better, right? Save you in the long run. This one down here, this could be one of those ones that the guy said, oh yeah, I raced it a lot. It's won lots of races. It's a good car. Well, it was in one day, but to me, it's pretty wore out. You're going to have to gut this and start over. And it might have some components on it that you can still use, but it looks really old. And you're just going to have to go through and just completely rebuild the car. Okay. Well, here's one right here. There's a lot of heavy, hard fabrication already done to it. He's got the cage in. That's difficult work right there. That's time consuming geometry to get done. This might be something that you could get at a fair price. And this saves you a lot of time right here. So it just all depends on where you want to start at and how much money you have. We bought cashmere. We actually traded a UTV, a little 900 side by side for it. And it had a lot of racing history. And when we got it home, I started going through the rule book and stuff, and it still met Class 11 and 516 rules. The cage needed some gusset upgrades, but those are easy. I didn't have to remove and go backwards. I was able to start right where we bought the car and move forward. And we decided if she was going to start racing it, we weren't going to go big on a motor. We just left the stock engine that was in it. There wasn't much done to it. We knew it had been rebuilt at least once, but it was just a stock. I don't even think it was a 16. It was the 1541 or whatever, right? But we knew she'd never raced before. This was going to be her introduction to it. Let's just get it together and meet rules so we can pass TAC. Not worry about being competitive. Just get her out there and see how she enjoyed it. And just like you saw, now she's hooked. We had the motor pulled out the next day. It's all done, actually. It's getting dynoed this week. And she's got a brand new race motor, super competitive race motor that's going to go in it, thanks to Doghouse, Phil and the guys at Doghouse. So that's my point. We saved a ton of money in the very beginning because we just we didn't go crazy with it. We stayed patient and we thought ahead. Like, we don't even know if she's going to want to do this. So, and then it ended up getting a second bug so she can drive it around and get better at driving a stick. Anyway, yeah, that's what I mean by be patient and know your limitations. Okay, so you're a member of an agency. You printed out the rule book. You got your team, your group of guys together that's going to help you build it, and you got a car sitting in your garage. And this right here, teamwork makes the dream work. 100% true. I've said it already a couple of times in this presentation that you can't do this by yourself, right? You got a couple of guys that are going to help you maybe build and buy and build the car and work on it, but you're going to need more guys than that. More people, friends, family, anybody that wants to jump on board. This kind of racing you can't do by yourself at all. You need the support. So, gather as many people as you can to create your team, but use good judgment in this because, and I've ran into this a couple of times, it only takes one sour apple to really spoil the whole parade. And it sucks, because you want to keep it fun, you want to have no drama, but when you're picking people to help you work on this, it's a big investment, money and time, like we've already talked about. And the camaraderie has to be tight because there's a lot of ups and downs, and everybody needs to be able to work together and know their place and know their roles. You don't need somebody that just kind of takes it all for granted and just, hey, we're out here having fun. It is fun, and your goal is to have fun, but it's dangerous. And not just out in the race car, but in the pits. This everything about this on race day is very, very dangerous, and you need people on point. You can't have alcohol in the pits. Everybody on my team loves a good party, but they know, and it went without saying, just because of their character, and they know how serious this is for me, and how dangerous it can be. They like a good party, but they know on race day and race weekend, there's no partying until after we're all done. There's no booze in the pits. It's all business, and that's important. So you need to find those people that take it that seriously, even though they're vested, even though they don't maybe own the car or anything, they have ownership in it because they're vested into the interest of it and the sport of it and the safety aspects of it. So, and in my situation, my business logo and my sponsors are all over the place. They're all over the car. They're all over the trailer. They're all over the chase trucks. Excuse me. They're on our shirts. You don't want somebody that isn't going to represent you, well. It only takes one person to ruin your image of the entire team, right? So, we're guests in the towns that we usually race in. Okay. And a lot of these races happen in small towns, and there's hundreds of us that infiltrate these towns, and for their economy, it's probably great. And we hope it is, but we're guests there, and we need to respect that. We don't want to go to a restaurant and be an a-hole, or one of us be an a-hole, because the other 20 of us that are sitting there, we're all going to look bad. And my company with my logo on your shirt is going to look bad. And that's what the people are going to remember. So my point is, when you're gathering the team, don't be desperate. You want your friends and family to be involved in it. Those people you probably know pretty well and have a good judgment of character, but you want to make your roster as big as possible because you want to have a large pool to pull from. When those can't make it, you've got somebody that can. So when you're making that pool, that list large, don't be desperate with it and just grab anybody and everybody. Kind of vet them a little bit, So it's important. It really is. It really is important. And overall, hopefully it's just fun. And that's one of it's tied with number one of being in the driver's seat on race day. It's my favorite things is bringing the team together and the camaraderie and having a good time. Even when the racing doesn't go that well, you still want to have a good time. So surround yourself with people that inspire you and support you, and they can take the lows with the highs and keep everybody in check, right? They will all make you successful, which makes them successful. And I'm in that boat right now. For the last 3 years, uh, it's been trial and error, learning every nook and cranny of this. A lot of my team members probably don't know, but I listen to them, and I hear the talks and the chatter, and I take that all in. I don't get insulted by it. I don't get my feelings hurt by it. I'm my worst critic. If I'm going to hurt my feelings, it's because I failed and I did it to myself, which means I did it to my team. But I'm listening and I'm paying attention, and I'm learning from my mistakes. So for the last 3 years, we've gone short distances in the truck and failed, and we've gone longer distances in the truck and failed. And ultimately, I'm taking notes of all of those issues that we've had. And now, um, it hasn't been for a waste. It's because my goal is to be super successful at this and run my truck that my company builds and be competitive with it and then sell those trucks. Right. So that's taken a long time, about 3 years to do. And now we're building a brand new truck that's my chassis. And it all comes from the support of these people that you have on your team. They motivate you, they give their input. And mostly, I don't want to disappoint them. I want to get a truck across the finish line for them. So surround yourself with people that uplift you that way. They may not even know that they're doing it, but they do. So, and like I said, create a large roster, um, because it's got to be dynamic. Some people will come and go, and others won't be able to make it to races. So you just need a large pool to pull from. Um, Find people with the skills that you don't have. Surround yourself with those people that, if you don't know how to TIG weld, find somebody that can TIG weld. If you're not good with sheet metal, find somebody that is good with sheet metal, or somebody you can learn from. And then you got to pick a co-driver navigator. It's one of the most important things, is find somebody that you can trust and that you can get along well with. And don't be afraid to basically, don't be so prideful in the driver's seat thinking, I'm the driver, I know what I'm doing. You got to listen to that person next to you when they're saying, hey, slow down a little bit. It's a long race. You got to really focus on that. I'll get into a zone and really start pushing it pretty hard. And Brett's really good about, hey, slow down here. We're trying to make it to the finish line. So you want to find somebody that you can work well together at that level. And then try to find somebody that has a little bit of experience on your team. This is important because you'll learn a lot from them if they've been through all of this. Um, This is where I encourage people to reach out to me and ask these questions. That's why I'm doing this video, right? It's to help those out there at least get their foot in the door. When I first started years ago to build my first race truck, we needed a fiberglass body. And I think my wife found one. I think it was on Race Desert. It was the old Pabst Blue Ribbon body that we ran on our first truck at the Mint. And I lived in Northern California at the time, and the person that had it for sale was in Southern California, and we drove all the way down there to get it, and that's when I met Matt Lovell. And he's turned into be an awesome friend. Him and his wife are great friends with us, and we spend a lot of time together. But more so, I look at him as like a mentor to me, because he's so talented, and he's got so much knowledge that I lean on him, and I poke his brain all the time about stuff. And I'm learning from him all the time. And when we're at races, whether it's with my team or his own team that we're helping, I'm constantly learning stuff, and I'm listening to what he has to say, and I'm taking his feedback and stuff. And there's been opportunities to where I built something on my truck and it's all completed and done. And he's looked at it and went, oh man, I don't know, and that sucks because, well, shit, I was kind of proud of that. But hey, if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. So it's good to have somebody on your team that's got that knowledge and that experience. So try to find somebody like that. Or if they can't be on your team, at least have somebody that's available at a phone call or a text message. Okay, so you got your car, you got your team. Uh, Now what? We got to get busy, right? Um, this can be overwhelming to look in there and you see the rule book and what do I do now? Right? Um, the first thing I can recommend, and this comes from my experience, especially in the fire service for 30 years, is staying organized. It's very, very important. Not just with your tools, but with your parts and inventory that's going on the vehicle. Having an organized shop is a key element to success, and this is even any auto shop, any fab shop, any machine shop. If you go in there, they're like laboratories, right? They're clean. There's a reason for that. If you got your tools scattered all over the place, it takes you 20 minutes to find the tool you need to do a 5-minute job, and it's wasteful, just wasteful, wasting time. So try to be organized. You can see here the toolbox, right? I try to keep my toolboxes as organized as possible. You just saw the workbench that I just built for my shop. I want to be organized for this new build. Um, you do it enough, you'll make it a habit. And that's the key. You want to make organization a habit because all racing must be very disciplined and thorough. So being organized is the first step. Building the level of truck that I build, you have to be so meticulous in every little detail that organization is the foundation of that. So try to get organized in your shop and avoid clutter. If there's a part you took off the old car when you bought it and you think, oh, wow, this looks cool, I might be able to use it, really think about it. Am I going to use it? Or is this just going to sit in my way for the next 10 years and tripping over it? Can I sell it and make a few bucks and then roll that money back over into the car for something that I will need right away? More than likely, right? So don't get in the habit of clutter and storing a bunch of crap. It's just going to get in your way, and now you're going to end up just tripping over, and it's wasting time, right? Again, toolboxes, workbenches, parts, supplies. You saw me in previous videos when I take a truck apart, I put them in these little totes. I get them at Walmart. They're a couple of bucks each. They're clear, so I can kind of see what's in them, and then I label them with a label maker. You don't want to invest in a label maker, but and I label all the parts. Communications, radios, fuel system, coolant system, engine, spark plugs, wires, ignition system, stuff like that. I try to keep them extremely organized. It keeps them clean because it's very dusty out here. It keeps them clean and kind of protected from any other elements. And you know where they are all the time. So again, invest in totes and a label maker. And then when it comes to the parts on the car, buy at least 2 of everything. If you're going down to buy a fan belt, buy 2 or 3 of them. If you're going to buy an alternator, buy 2 or 3 of them. You're going to need one on the truck or on the race vehicle. So when you're out there and you break, you have it to fix because it's its own toolbox and own part supply store when you're out there, because you could be 100 miles away from civilization. You got to fix it. You know that. You've seen it on TV. You've seen it. So you're going to have one on the truck, and every tool and every part that's on the race vehicle stays on the race vehicle. It never gets pulled off when you're in the pit. So your pit and chase vehicles all have to have those same tools and same parts available. So budget for that. Okay. Overwhelmed. This is a big deal. When you first get your race vehicle, you're jazzed, you're pumped up, your guys are pumped up. You guys show up 6 o'clock bright and early that first morning and you start tearing stuff apart, right? Getting ready to build the car. By day 3, now you're looking at something that resembles a car, a big pile of parts that needs to go away. Where do I start? So do lots of research before this, like these videos, of where to start. Do lots of research about your class specifically. And hopefully, we bought a car that's already there. It's got some progress already done to it, right? Have the rule book, go through the rule book and line out what is already done and what you need and highlight it. Okay. This is what I do. And I learned this years ago at the fire department when we were outfitting a brand new fire truck. Okay. Fire trucks are giant toolboxes. It's all they are with a water pump on them. They're just giant toolboxes. So when we were outfitting one, my fire chief, who had many years experience, super wise guy, wisdom, like crazy. We bought, this is how old it was, chalkboards, but now you can use whiteboards. We had one giant whiteboard. So in my shop, you've seen them in my videos. I have lots of whiteboards. And the reason I have multiple whiteboards is because one, I got to prioritize everything. And I do that visually on these boards. So I'll have one giant whiteboard, excuse me, that has everything on it that I can think of that I need to do on the car, on the truck, everything. Everything, no particular order. I just write down every single thing that it needs to be done. And I'm talking down to the very last screw, like very, very detailed list. This list is going to have quite a few hundred items on it. Okay. You're going to look at that list and be really overwhelmed. Like, wow. Okay. That's a lot to do. So now what I do is I break it down by that month that I'm in, and I go through the big list. And I think about, okay, I should get big fabrication stuff done. Like here, I say it right here. Start with big fab and work your way to the smaller stuff. So starting out, you're going to look at the rule book and go, what's the big fab stuff I got to do? Do I need a full roll cage? Do I need to gusset the roll cage? Do I need to add some tabs or whatever? So look at your down dirty, big, not very meticulous stuff that needs to be done. That's what I'm going to start with. So I'm going to go down my huge list, and I'm going to make a monthly goal list of all those big items. And that's what I'm going to get done for the first month. And then I go even further and I make a daily goal list. This helps keep me from walking into the shop that day going, God, I've got like 10 things I got to do. What am I going to do? Well, that day or the night before when I left the shop, I broke it down and said, tomorrow I'm going to do these 2 things. I'm going to mount the radiator and get the fab all done for the radiator, which is surprising. It's going to take a long time. And I'm going to mount the oil coolers and the heat exchanger. I'm going to make mounts for those. And that's my day list. Just 3 things, small little 3 things. That way, when I come in, I don't even look at the big list. I don't even look at the monthly list. I'm just looking at my daily goals for that day. And I'm going to knock those out. Now, if I don't finish it that day, and then I carry it over to the next day. Don't abandon that day's goals for the next day to just add something else, because now you're going to have another unknown list of things that are just going to get overlooked. So stick with that daily goal list. And when you check all those off, go back to your monthly list, move stuff over to the daily list, go to the big list, pick out some next prioritized stuff, and put it on the monthly list. And the monthly list is kind of in the buffer zone of standing by for that. Now, you could go straight from the large list to the daily list, but I found that having that middle whiteboard, it helps me define what is super heavy fabrication stuff or light little stuff, right? My goal is at the very end to have all my wiring and electrical plugs and stuff all done, and then that's final assembly with the body mounts. Trying to keep my camera from going dark on me. Can't figure out how to set the setting on it. Dry erase boards. Yep. Don't start the wiring. This is my point of doing the heavy fab stuff first. You want to get all your welding and hot work done before you start putting stuff on it, like wires and stuff, right? That's just common sense. You don't want to melt your wires. And then here's really important. Once you get a rhythm and you're really going and you're staying up late at night thinking about how you're going to knock tomorrow's daily goal list out, man, it'll consume you, especially if you have fun at it like I do. You got to take breaks. You got to walk away from it sometimes. Sometimes I go out to the shop and I look around and I'm just like, man, I'm not feeling it today. I do something else, or I just close up the shop and walk away from it. it relaxes your mind. It resets your vision. Sometimes after taking a break, I'll walk into the shop and get back on my list, and I'll go to the truck and look at it and go, gee, why the heck did I do it that way? That was dumb. So it, it kind of refreshes your mind and your vision and your creativity a little bit and just gives you a break. Plus, you can use that time to spend time with more important things like your family and friends and stuff away from it. So don't get overwhelmed. It's very, very easy to get overwhelmed. Whenever I feel like I am, I just go back to the boards and discipline myself to focus on those things, and that's it. Okay, this is just a little side page I wanted to throw in here. I threw this in last night because I was watching TV thinking about it. These are key components that you have to have. Okay, and these are kind of pricey. They can be expensive, but you have to have these. Every vehicle has to have them. Number one thing is navigation. Okay. You've watched Desert Racers. They got the navigator. Brett's my navigator. He runs the lead nav and the map, and he's calling out the course to me. Um, I don't know. I had to learn when I navigated for Julie. I had to learn all this. I don't do this. This isn't my job, and I'm not one to micromanage or dabble in anybody else's job. So Brett knows this stuff really well. He knows how to load the program and put the markers and the hazards and stuff on there. My point is, whoever you choose for your navigator needs to be vested that much into it. And you got to have your navigation. So we use lead nav. There's Lowrance, Garmin, lead nav, and Gaia. I don't know much about Gaia other than Gaia and lead nav are fairly similar. Both of those differ dramatically from the Lowrance and Garmin, though. So, okay, so Lowrance is just a GPS unit, and they're expensive. Okay, these things, well, in the thousands, and Lowrance has its own. I'm not very good with the computer lingo and stuff, but basically it's just a green screen with a line, and then you can put little markers on it for your hazards when you're making notes if you pre-run and stuff. They've been around a long time. They've been in off-road racing for a while. They're the name that everybody knows. Garmin, everybody knows Garmin from GPS and stuff, but Garmin's really come into the game pretty heavy the last year with a really nice setup that has the Google Earth overlay on it and topography, and very accurate, very fast. They all tie into a GPS satellite navigation system that's on top of your car, and very good systems, but very, very expensive. So for the budget racer, though, you've got lead nav and Gaia. And like I said, I don't know much about Gaia. Night Train Racing guys, you can look up their YouTube channel, NTD Racing. They use Gaia, but it's basically very similar to lead nav. And what it is down here is lead nav. This is what it looks like. We have an iPad that we put in a nice heavy case, and we've got lead nav app on it. And I think it's $114 a year subscription. You don't have to have the subscription. If you don't get the topo reading that you see here. You just have a line on a white screen, and you can add your hazards and markers and stuff. You just don't have the topography. We like the topography, so we pay for it. So it's I think it's like $114 a year or something like that. We load it onto an iPad. Okay, now you're probably thinking, well, iPads are expensive. We went to eBay, and we got remanufactured, rebuilt iPads for like under $100. Well, I think I correct myself. I think it was like $120. We bought a couple reman iPads. I think they're 14-inch screens, and they work great. This is all we use them for. We don't use them for anything else. It's just it has lead nav on it, and that is it. And you have to buy a little satellite antenna puck. I should have had a picture. I'll show a picture. I'll dig up a picture and put a picture of it in here. But it's a little tiny satellite antenna that goes on top. You charge it up, and it syncs Wi-Fi to your iPad. And they use them in airplanes, so that's how accurate it is. They're like $100. So that's on top of your cab, and it's Wi-Fi connected to your iPad, and your iPad has lead nav on it, and you're ready to rock. You load the GPX, you download the GPX file from your email when the race, which I'll get to. You load the GPX file onto the iPad. That's the course, and then when you're ready to go, you hit run, and it tracks you from those GPS antenna. So my point is, for that same service, Lowrance and Garmin will charge you, probably with equipment and everything, upwards of $8,000 to $10,000 for their good systems. LeadNav and Gaia, you can get the same navigation characteristics and tools for under $500. So something to look at, right? LeadNav. And they're very simple to use. Very simple. I struggle with the Lowrance, trying to go through all the menus and crap. The lead nav we found is very, very easy, and there's no reason not to use it. It works fine. So radio comms, the best thing to use out there is a Kenwood 110 watt TK790. That's what I run in my chase trucks. That's what I run in my race truck. It's an emergency services radio. I'm very familiar with them because we use them in the fire service forever. So I know how to navigate through the different pages and different menus and stuff. And it's a very powerful, very rugged radio. And PCI, I don't think Rugged deals with them, but PCI deals with them a lot. To buy one brand new, you're in the upwards of $10,000 to $15,000 for a brand new one. But you go to racedesert.com. There's a gentleman on there. His name's Mark, and he's got them for sale all the time. He buys them, he refurbishes them, and then he programs them with PCI race channels. And he will custom program your race channel into it also. And they're right around $500. So it's a killer deal. I would recommend nothing else. But if you're interested in something else, there are other radios like ICOM. Rugged Radios has their own stuff, and they're good. They're competitors with PCI. And then you're going to want handy talkies. I'll get to the handy talkies in a minute, though. ICOM makes good radios, but they're limited on their frequency range sometimes and their wattage. The thing that's nice about the Kenwood is it's 110 watts. It really has a lot of reach to it. And with the big antenna, especially on your chase vehicles, you'll be able to really reach out there and talk to your car that might be 100, 200 miles away from you. Handy talkies, little walkie-talkies. You're going to want to get a bunch of those. ICOM makes good ones. What's the other one? There's a Chinese model that we use. I can't think of the name right now, but anyway, little handy talkies, and you can reach out to PCI or Rugged and get them. They're pretty inexpensive. I think I have a half dozen of them. They're all programmed with the same frequencies as my big base radios and the race radio. But that way all your crew members have some ability to communicate and listen. Co-driver and driver comms, that is right here in next to this PCI logo. There's actually everything. There's a radio, and then this is your intercom right here. And what this is what enables the driver and co-driver to talk to each other. It's just an open mic. There's nothing we have to push to talk to each other. We can just communicate back and forth like it's an intercom system. When we want to transmit out and talk to either race command or our pit, we have to push a button that's on our steering wheel. You've probably seen it. And then we can talk. That's how you key up the mic. But the intercom allows you to communicate back and forth to each other. Again, these systems are really pretty expensive. Excuse me. For the, let's see, for mine, I have a PCI Elite, and I think for the intercom and all the cables and everything is right around $800. But again, this is something you can find used, or hardly used, previously owned, I'll say, on racedesert.com.
these guys are always upgrading these or changing them out because they built a new car or something. So just keep your eyes open. You can find them for a few $100, save you some money there. And they're really easy to install. So you're going to want a good horn or siren. We run this unit right here, which is a Vivor 350, I think it is, or 200. It's a 200 watt um, siren amplifier. It's got other features on it, but we strictly use it just for our siren. And you're going to want that because when you're coming up on a slower vehicle and you're requesting to pass, you beep them with the siren. And if you go with a Code 3 or a Whelen, these will be about $400 to $500 and then another couple hundred for the siren unit, the actual horn, this thing here. But you can find them on Amazon. Surprisingly, I think this one's like $150, and I've used a few of them now, and they work great. They're loud. I even had one that was louder than a Whelen that I had, and I spent like $1,000 on the Whelen. But the Amazon one was a lot louder. So here's the sources. You can go straight to PCI race radios or rugged race radios, Race Desert, Amazon. Reach out to other racers. But I just wanted to throw this. These are things that you're gonna have to get. It doesn't matter the class. I would get these soon, even before you get your car. Because they all have to have them. So, and they're pricey. So make sure you budget for them. Okay, here's a little section, getting sponsors, right? You got the car in the garage, you guys got your list made, you're starting to tear into it. It's kind of a good time to reach out and try to get sponsors. Here's the thing about sponsors. They're not going to come to you. They're not going to just walk up to your door and say, hey, I want to give you money to watch you race your car. You have to go get it. You have to put yourself out there. You got to sell yourself and sell the idea of what you're doing. I take a lot of passion and a lot of pride in what I'm doing because I feel like I'm influencing people and I'm inspiring people and I'm giving people memories and experiences that not many others get to experience, right? Not everybody gets to go out and run a full trophy truck and rub elbows with the BJ Baldwins and the Jesse Jameses and Jesse Joneses and all those guys. So, you got to go get it. You got to go find these businesses and these people and say, hey, I'm selling advertising, because that's what you're doing. That's all you're doing. I have a racer resume. When you're just starting out, your resume is pretty much just going to be what your dreams are, what your goal is to do with this race car, right? And why it could be beneficial for them to be part of your journey, and what you want to pay for, right? So a racer resume is good. It's got all my racing career on there. Another good resource to put your resume out on is called Hook It, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's not what you think. It's sponsorships for racers. Okay. So my racer resume goes along with my sponsor packets that I create. And I literally put together price packets of what people will buy into, what advertising on the truck they're going to get. Like a hood would cost, like, say, $5,000. And that $5,000, if you want to be sponsor the whole season, it's this much. If you want to sponsor one race and you get the hood price, that's this. That price pays for my entry fee and some fuel and maybe a tire or two if I need it. If you want to do the whole entire season, then you got pretty much the whole entire truck. And we're going to try to go for a points championship to get the exposure for that company out there. I also offer for me to take the truck to the business and do a static display for them and hand out T-shirts and stickers and stuff and try to promote it as much as possible. Some of them want to do a radio, and they have live radio broadcasts there and social media broadcasts and so forth. And so put together a packet of what you offer for their money that they're going to give to you for advertising. And keep in mind, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for exposure for their company on this cool looking race vehicle because it's an attention getter. Okay. Explain to them, in case they don't know, what and how these races work, how difficult they are. I've had sponsors that I went in and I signed them up and they signed the contract for a sponsorship of a race or two. And then they were super bummed and disappointed when I didn't finish. And, this is hard. This is the toughest racing out there. And you miss one little nut or bolt on your car and it could end your whole day. So make sure your sponsors understand that this is a long haul deal. It's tough. It's very hard, but you got to let them know that you're not going to give up either, and you're going to pay them back on their investment. So um, get social media. Like I have my YouTube channel and Facebook and Instagram, and I'm constantly trying to stay up to snuff on that, and I'm trying to not only promote our race and keep our viewers happy with our content, but I'm also doing it for the sponsors so I get their exposure out there and try to get people to walk in their door and buy their product and stuff, because that's what they've hired you for, and they are hiring you, just so you know. Invest in GoPros. I think I've got, I don't know, I've probably got a dozen GoPros, and I'm always using them. They're always on race cars, or they're in my shop, or right now filming me doing this. So invest in some GoPros. And again, they're expensive, but you can find decently used ones out there on Facebook and Marketplace and stuff like that. Just, just go for that. Starlink. We just got Starlink last year. Still trying to figure out, get it dialed in. Our last race, we had the Starlink on the truck, and then we brought the wrong comm cable, and it wouldn't communicate between the dish and stuff. Anyway, I just don't know. It's new to us, and we're going to get it rolling. So we've used it since then, and now we got it figured out. But Starlink's cool because your truck has mobile internet, and you can live stream right from it, and that's my goal. The sponsors I brought on last year, I promised them Starlink so they could watch it, and I didn't get it going, so I failed in that area. But I'm going to get it going, and I'll repay them their value and follow through with my promise. And there it is, right there. Know what you can deliver. Make sure you can deliver what they're paying for. And a win should never be that, especially starting out. Don't tell them, hey, if you sponsor me at this race, I'm going to win. No, that's don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. So. Okay. You built your car, and now it's go time. You've tested, and let me touch on that, actually. Just brought something to mind that I probably should have put in there. When you build your car, and this is where I have failed a couple of times, leave yourself time to test. You have to. I know how important it is. My guys are always telling me, get it out and test, get it out and test. I live in an area that's pretty cool. I can just drive out my front yard. You've seen it in videos, and I can go test. But really testing it, I've gone out and I've put it 50 to 100 miles on one in a test, and everything went great. Our last race, in fact, I tested. I ran that truck for about 80 miles one day with no issues. It went great. And then we get to the race and we're overheating. I don't know. But what if I tested a second day at 80 miles, and then we would have had that problem? And then I would have known, and it would have saved the heartache at the race, right? So my point is, and this is from my personal experience and my personal failures, leave yourself time to test the crap out of that race car. It makes all your effort and your team's effort worth it. And you're doing it for them. So run the shit out of that car before race day. You're going to get it dirty. You might break things, but that's the point. Get it back in the shop before the race. Leave yourself time to repair it, test it again, clean it up, go to race. Okay. So that's all before the race. So here we are. I recommend getting to the race early. Most of them open up the pits and stuff like on a Wednesday or Thursday. I like to get there early. I get there a day early just so I can unwind. I can make myself a little list of things we got to do. I can make sure all my pit books are dialed in. I can help coordinate with the arrival of the rest of the team. Just leave yourself lots of time because you will need it. You will be busy and the minutes will click away, and before you know it, you're at the starting line and you forgot something, which is inevitable, by the way. Okay, so before the race, this is like the first week, they're going to open up registration for the race, online registration. This is where you sign up for the race. You put your team on the docket, right? You can pay your fee there, Some organizations allow you to leave a deposit and then you pay the balance at the race. Not all organizations do that though. Legacy and Bora are pretty good about it. But that's where you sign up. You also, at that point, will print out your team waivers. These are legal liability waivers, and everybody on the team has to sign one. So I print those up, or I send it out electronically, and I have everybody on the team sign it, and then I'll print it out and I take it with me to the race. Okay, so week before the race, you've signed up. When you sign up, that's going to open up the ability for you to new sections in their website that normal people don't get to see. And that is your pit booklets and chase plan. The race organizations will provide you a electronic pit book, and it's maps to all the pits, mileages, uh, marker references, like landmark references, so your chase team can find you, because some of these pits are out in the middle of nowhere, and they put on landmarks on the pit books. With that pit book, you can formulate create your own pit strategy, especially if it's a chase race, and how many chase vehicles and who's going to be at what pit when, and your fueling plan. Okay, so this is all done a week or two before the race. So print out your pit books. I put them in binders, and I'll print 5 or 6 of them, and I try to go through and I'll tab each one particular to the chase vehicle that's going to have that one. Um, it's only going to take a racer or two, and your guys are going to figure out how to read the pit books and how to navigate them. And then it's a lot less work for you to do. It's just that first initial one until people learn how to use the pit books. And maybe I'll do a whole other video on that later, but it's only after the first race or two, they're going to figure it out. And then all you got to do is print it out and give it to them, and they'll be able to get where you need them to be. Team waivers, already talked about. So pre-run. Not all races in the United States allow pre-running. It's because of land management. Down in Mexico, they pre-run the crap out of those courses out there, but there's no regulation. There's very little regulation down there for it. Here in the States, though, there's a lot of regulation. There's a lot of jurisdictions and private property owners, and pre-running just isn't allowed much. So if it is, though, go out and pre-run it and just cruise it. Go out on a motorcycle and pre-run it. Get an idea of what the course is going to be like, and you can mark special hazards and stuff that you can put in your lead nav and in your GPS, so you're aware of it. So when you're racing it at a faster pace, you'll know where those hazards are and have an idea of the corners and checkups and stuff that you need to be aware of. Your chase vehicles, got to get your chase vehicles lined out. I kind of showed you in a video or two ago when we were getting ready to go help LAPD Motorsports with Gold Rush, how we set up our chase pit. And like I said before, a chase pit setup and a stationary pit setup are totally different, right? One's permanent, stationary like Yarrington, and you can take a lot more stuff. But chase vehicles, you want to keep it quick attack, right? Very minimal. Take only what you need. So the week before the race, that's when you want to get your chase vehicles set up. And I use this opportunity to inventory all my stuff and make sure everything is there. I do that when I put the stuff away after a race and clean it. And then I do it again when we're loading it in the truck. Just everything gets opened up. And this is good for team familiarization. The people that have a specific chase vehicle and responsibility, when they're loading their stuff, they can go through it all and refresh their memory on what they have, right? And this might be a good time also to do a team practice. Maybe your team is all new and nobody's ever done this before. You're going to grab your guy on your team that you recruited that knows a little bit about this, and he's going to show people how to lift the dump cans to put fuel in it, or how to change a tire and run the jack and all that stuff, right? And the sequence of events of doing that, because you want to do that in certain sequence of events. And again, the rule book spells out who should be doing what and who shouldn't be doing things. There's lots of rules and guidelines in the rule book about your chase team. Okay, so now it's race day. You're at the race. Let's say it's Friday, and you've been there a couple days. You got everything lined up. Your team's ready to go. Car's ready to go. The first thing you got to do on when you get there, when it's open, and it's usually on a Friday, is go to registration. Find out where registration is. It'll be spelled out in the race info. It'll be at a particular place. And in registration, that's where you either finish paying your fees if you need to. You officially check in that you have made it to the race, and you get your wristbands. You turn your waivers in, and then you get your wristbands for yourself and your co-driver, and wristbands for your chase teams and pit crew. They all have to wear them, and then your chase vehicles will get stickers that say team support or chase vehicle pit pass, basically, and that allows them into every pit that they're going to. After registration, or during registration, sometimes they happen simultaneously. Tech and contingency is going on. So tech and contingency happen simultaneously. Tech inspection is when the official inspector of the race is inspecting your vehicle for certain things. He's not going through the rule book item by item and going, hey, that's the wrong size tubing for this race car, even though that has happened to us. I'm not going to get into that. You guys are aware of that if you watch way back at our first video. But anyway, they're looking at other factors. They're looking to make sure that your brake lights work. They're making sure your emergency lighting in the rear works. They make sure you have a horn or a siren. They make sure you have safety reflectors and triangles in case you broke down, you can set them up. They make sure you have a radio frequency. They make sure you have your fire extinguishers and they're up to date. They make sure your belts are up to date and your window nets are up to date. And you have first aid kits on there. That's pretty much what they're looking at. And then they also inspect your personal safety gear. They make sure you have a neck restraint that's up to date. They make sure you have a Snell certified helmet and a fire suit that has the right rating. And that's pretty much it. You have all of that stuff. The odds are you'll pass tech. There's other little intricacies that all inspectors have their own little niches that they want to look at, but for the most part, that's what they're looking for. And while you're pushing your car through tech or on your way to tech, you're going to go down basically a giant vendor row, and that is contingency. Let's step back. At registration, when you register, there'll be another booth that says contingency sponsorships. You'll go over to that table and they will have a list of all the manufacturers who are sponsoring contingency awards for this race. It'll be like PCI Radio, Rugged Radio, VP Fuels, Raceline Wheels, BFG Tires, General Tires. If you're running that product on your car, you can check next to those manufacturers and sign up and basically for their contingency sponsorship. Now, it's a sponsorship contingent, hence the word contingency. Contingent, you meet certain criteria. One is you're running their product on your car from start to finish. And two, you have their sticker on your car that says so. If you don't have the stickers, when you sign up for contingency, they'll give you the stickers, and they are specific on where it needs to go on the car. You sign that contract, and then usually the third contingency is you have to place. You have to finish on the podium somewhere, first, second, or third. Some of them are just finish. Some do that. But mostly it's you finish on the podium in your class. If you do that, then their contingency package might be free product for that race, or a small cash prize with free product, or free product for a couple of races, whatever it is. You sign up for it. And then when you get on the podium and you met their contingency, you claim it and you get their little deal. And you do that at every race. So now, fast forward, we're back in line pushing the car through tech down this vendor row. That vendor row is contingency. All those companies that you put the check mark next to on that contingency contract are going to be on that vendor row. With your sticker on them, you can pull into their booth and go, hey, I just signed up for your contingency. How do my stickers look, right? Make face-to-face contact with them, introduce yourself to them, and let them know that you are on the contingency list for them. If you're running PCI radios, excuse me, if you're running PCI or rugged radios and you want to make sure your radio is tuned up as you're going through contingency row, you can pull your car up right in front of PCI as trailer and say, hey, can you tune my radio up for me real fast? We're about to race and I'm on your contingency list. Or you can buy something from them or whatever, right? So that's contingency and tech. So as you're going through contingency, you're getting this product and stuff from your contingency sponsors or signing up for more, and then going through tech inspection. Once you're done with tech inspection, you can kind of chill for a little bit, depending on. I like to get the tech early. That way, if there's any issues in tech, I have time to go back to the pit and fix it, and then go back through and try to pass. If we pass the first time, and we went early enough, and then we've got all day to just double check and triple check everything, and chill out a little bit and get ready. Usually at this time, Brett is using this time to go through the lead nav and make sure our navigation is dialed and everything is good to go there. He's making sure the antenna battery is charged up and whatnot. And I'm usually just trying to formulate a pit plan and stuff with Julie. She's very, very good at that logistically. And then later in the evening, usually around 5 or 6 o'clock, is the driver's meeting. And as you see here, this is the driver's meeting down here. This is what one looks like. This is a legacy one. This is the showdown, I think, that was here in Pahrump. And as you see, those are all racers. Those are all drivers and navigators. Quite a bit of them. Yeah. I think at this race, there was 140 racers. So this is a driver's meeting. You see up here, he's got the screen with the projector. And Legacy's really good. Bora's really good. You'll be in this meeting for a good 45 minutes to an hour, and they will go over all the gnarly hazards. They'll go through the course on the screen, and they'll show you all the gnarly hazards that are out there that weather might have popped up. You might have. It might not be on the GPX file because it rained a couple nights before and there's a big wash. So they'll update everybody at the driver's meeting and let you know of any special characteristics to watch out for. Also, it's a good time to introduce our sponsors for the race and all that. But that's a driver's meeting. You want to be at the driver's meeting. Usually, I take myself and Brett and one team member, usually a team captain, will go to the driver's meeting. You don't want to clog it. As you see, there's a lot of people in there. You don't want to crowd too much. So usually just 2 or 3 of us go. After that, I like to have a team meeting. And that's where we take all the information from the driver's meeting and we filter it down to, I shouldn't say down, and filter it over to our team members. That way everybody's on the same page. There's no secrets, no need for it. And from that, we can formulate and refine our pit plan, our chase plan. And then the next morning is race day. And it usually starts pretty early, depending on your class. They usually start the faster guys really early. And the faster guys are the motorcycles and quads because they're small and we don't want to run them over. So they start really early, like 4 and 5 in the morning. Theory is they can get far out enough that even the big trophy trucks aren't going to catch them. It still happens though. And then the trophy trucks and spec trucks will leave after those guys still really early. Sportsmen's will usually leave late morning, like 10, 11 o'clock. And then everybody else in between, and 11 bugs. They've tried to put the slower traffic in the back of the field. So be ready. Be at the starting line staging area, suited up, ready to go, have your car warmed up. And then go and expect to sit in the staging line for quite a while because they usually leave. If it's a kind of windy day and the dust isn't settling and hanging there, they'll leave at 30-second intervals. But if it's a pretty calm day and the dust is settling, they could leave at a minute, sometimes minute and a half intervals. So if you do the math, if you're 40 cars back and they're leaving at 1 minute intervals, pending no accidents happen to where they have to shut the course down or anything, you're going to sit there for at least 40 minutes, right? So, and at 30 seconds, you're still going to sit there for a good 20 minutes. And that's only if you're the 40th car back. You could be 100 cars back. You don't know. So just be ready. Just be ready. And then when you get up to the starting line, well, actually, when you're there in the staging line, what's done is done. Can't change anything at this point. You just got to run it and see what happens, and have fun. So that's it. Go as far as you can. Hit your pits. Hopefully everything works out, and then you're done. And you get to the shop, and you got to start all over. Yeah, make new lists and practice what you learned. Um, Constantly a learning process, never ending. So, all right. Hopefully, I can get this thing put together. Um, oh, here's my final thoughts. I forgot I had put this screen. I put this on there last night. So this is from my experiences, okay? And I've already shared a few of them with you guys. No matter what, just have fun. Um, it's a hobby. It's a sport, and we're in a country that we're blessed to be able to do stuff like this. So make it fun. Create good memories. Laugh a lot. Just accept the failures as learning experiences. Don't get too bummed about it. You know, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you can say it's only money, but if you've got some cash to throw at this, expect it to just disappear. You know what I mean? But don't get disheartened about it. Have fun with it. Keep the spirits up, you know, and it'll all work out. Just keep trying. Don't give up. And like I said before, leave yourself time to test. You have got to test the vehicle. My new truck, I'm going to test the crap out of it. I've given myself 2 months to test this after it's built, and I'm going to run it hard. We're going to test it really, really hard. Again, I mentioned this earlier. Listen to your team. You know, listen to what they're saying, and there's value in that. You know, just because you built the car and you're the driver doesn't mean you know everything. And you've got a lot of eyes and minds looking at this car, and the more the better. So listen to your team. Here's another big one. I touched on this also. Be respectful. Show good sportsmanship. So be respectful to other racers. Watch out for one another. Be respectful and represent yourself professionally in the towns that you're in and you visit. We're guests there, so we need to treat the places we go to with great respect and leave them a better place than when we got there, right? And if your sponsors, you know, represent your sponsors. Remember that there's a logo on your shirt, and that's who you're representing. They don't know who you are, but they'll know who Parabellum Racecraft is on your shirt, right? And so that it just affected your sponsors if you screw up and be a jerk. So just be good to one another. It's not that hard. It's a fun sport, so keep it that way. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you want me to branch off another one of these tutorials or even a video out the shop like pit setup and chase vehicle setup and setting up pit books and stuff, I think those are good ideas. So if you guys want to see more content like that, let me know and I'll throw another one together. Thanks, Taz Adams, Michael, for giving me this idea. This video is dedicated to you, and I appreciate it. Hopefully this answers some questions. As I went through it, more and more things were popping into my head. So, you know, it's never ending. So, all right, like and subscribe. And I've still got to do the giveaway. So let me touch on that real quick. Not many people publicly subscribe. We had like 3,000 some subscribers, but only a couple dozen of you liked or subscribed publicly with a thumbs up. So I don't know how to get a hold of you. I don't even know your names. So I don't know what to do. I guess I can give away 60 shirts to the guys that did the thumbs up thing, right? But thank you anyway for everybody that subscribed. I appreciate it. The channel needs it and loves it, and it's what keeps us going. So thanks for watching. Again, leave a comment if you want more content on anything in this video or anything else. Reach out to me. I'll always get back to you. All right, guys. Thank you. See ya.